Welcome, everyone. Johnny Bevan, the police burnout coach, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Monday Hour One. Well, what is Monday Hour One? I'll tell you. It is a way of doing your scheduling, which will free up so much of your time. I was very resistant to this when I first heard about it because I thought I wanted to be more spontaneous. I didn't want to be restricted to a calendar. But actually, the opposite is true. You will have more time. Because what happens is when we do this work, we make all our decisions ahead of time. So all our decisions about what we're doing throughout the week have been done. So then we can use all our energy for either resting or being creative. Because so much of our energy is used. Our brain uses 20% of our energy. And when we haven't made a decision ahead of time, in the moment, we can go, our sort of primitive, scared brain comes in, and then we're going, oh, should we do that? Should we not? Oh, I don't feel like doing it. Oh, I'll do that later. And we waste all this energy. This negates all of that. It makes all our decisions ahead of time. And when we do that, we use a very different part of the brain. We use a part called the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, the rational part of the brain. So then we're not leaving our decisions to our emotional part of the brain that only ever wants the instant pleasure. So that's really the advantage of it. And what I'd say to you, if you're sort of thinking, oh, is it really for me? Don't sort of commit to a whole week. Don't do what I did. So, I'm going to schedule a whole month because I was a perfectionist and I thought I could do everything better than anyone. Actually, just start off small. Start with a day, 2 days, 3 days. Just start with that and then just see the benefits of it and then build up and find your own way of doing it. I'm going to give you the framework that I teach and that I use and the little bits I've learned from other people as I've gone along, but you will find things that work for you. But as long as you're making your decision ahead of time, scheduling your time and actually putting it in your calendar, then your rest of your week will be so much better. I feel resistance every week to this, and going well, I find it easier. But if I'm coming up against stuff where I'm feeling a bit more nervous, a bit more scared, this is often the first thing that drops off, and it's actually the first thing I know I need to pick up to get myself back on track because it cuts out all the overwhelm. So, Monday Hour One, that's what it is. And let's get straight into it. Step one. So this is going to be nice and simple. Step one, you're going to schedule your sleep, your eat, and your free time first. It's very different to what most people will do. Most people will put everything else first, and then they'll see what time they've got left. We want to do the opposite. We want to put in our sleep because our sleep's really important. We want to be making sure whatever you like to get, I think we ought to be getting at least 8 hours, but if whatever works for you, but make sure you're getting enough sleep and put that in. The times you're going to eat, you may think, I don't want to put that in, but actually how many times are you rushing around and you're not getting the right food? And these things, our sleep and our food, are so important to keep us fueled and to keep us healthy. And then put in your free time first. What do you want to do? Do you want some time going for a walk? Do you want to get up in the morning and take the dog out? Do you want to do some yoga? Do you want to do some exercise, go to the gym? Put all of that first. And I'll refer you back to the other video where we talked about the roles and the goals. I'll bring it up in a minute because I got it on one of the sheets in the back there. But you can start looking at, what you want to do for yourself. And that is what you're going to then schedule in. And what you're going to do is you're going to put that in your calendar. So, and you can use what you want, whether you use a paper calendar. I personally use a Google Calendar. And if anyone listening to that sort of wants to see how I do it, just give me a shout and we can jump on Zoom and I can share my screen and show you. But basically, I color code it. So I have all my free time. All the time for me is in blue. And then I have all the time like for my kids and stuff like that, all in different colors. So, but you want to put that free time first. So that's step one, sleep, eat, and free time first. Now, step two, we want to list the results we want to create in our week. Now, this is very different than going, I'm going to work on this. This is what I used to do. So I used to have DIY projects and different things I had going on. And even at work, case files, I'd say, I'm just going to work on that. But actually, what we want to do is start creating results with our time so that we know if we spend in that hour, that is going to be created. And the reason that's so important is because we know at the start of the week, then when our brain wants to try and go to overwhelm, tell us we've got loads to do, we know we just have to stick to this calendar and it's done. Okay. So we want to start creating results with our time. And so each thing needs a completion date. So if you've got something that you want to do, and you could you could pick anything, couldn't you? Whether that be something like a DIY project you're doing, or maybe it's like for me, recording my podcast, rather than going, I'm just going to work on it, I'd go, by this time, this is going to be done. And it's very different, the psychology of it. If you say, I'm going to work on something, then you'll just work on it. Whereas if you come from a place of completion, I like to word it as in, I have recorded a podcast, and I'll put that in my calendar. Because you even notice now when you say that, I'm going to work on that, you might feel a bit like, oh, how long is that going to take? Whereas if you go, I have recorded a podcast, or I have stripped the tiles off the bathroom, whatever you're doing, and that you go, that is completed, and that goes in the calendar like that. And you give it that time, and that's done in that time. The other way of doing it is just saying, I'm going to have completed it. I like to go, I have done it. I think that's really helpful. And what you're going to have, this is a useful place to come back to those roles and goals, those things that you want to complete that we covered in the previous video. But because some things you're going to have to also break down. So if you've got, say, within your Monday hour one thing, you've got actually, you need to like take the kids on a bike ride. That might be one of them. That might be one of the things you're doing. You're on a bike ride, but you might go, oh, actually, the bike needs servicing. I'm really not very good at doing that. I make things worse. I need to take to the bike shop. I need to book that in. Break it down to those things and give all that a time. And that's really important. So we're not just going to say we're going to do that, go for a bike ride and then get caught out. We're going to make all these decisions and second guess all these issues ahead of time and put that in the calendar, because then you'll see how much time you actually have. So you're going to make sure you get results with your time. It's going to need a completion date, and you're going to break things down. If there's tasks that are bigger ones, you have to break it down. I use this when we're going on holiday. I've done this as we within, I think it's next week, we go to France, and we go, right, what do we need to do? Car needs to be serviced. And we list all this stuff, but instead of having this list where your brain's always overwhelming, we've broken, my wife and I, we've broken everything down, and it's in the calendar. It's done. The car is serviced. The car is packed at this time, and all these things, so you know it's done ahead of time. Now, I put B- work here. This is going to feature more in later videos. But B- work is to help you with your perfectionism. Because when you start planning stuff, when you start saying you're going to put a time limit to something, if you're a perfectionist, will come in and go, oh, I don't know if that's going to be enough time. You start giving yourself more time. And Parkinson's law says the more time you give, you'll just fill that time. So what we want to do is adopt B- work. This isn't perfection, because there's no such thing as perfect. This isn't the perfection video. We're going to talk about that later in a separate one. This is B-. This is good work. It's not perfect, but it's done. And that's the key thing. We want to be getting the results with our time, and it just wants to be done and not perfect. So that is step 2. List all the results you want to create and break down those results. If there's little bits you need to do, break all those down. So now you've got a list of everything you want to achieve in that week. And like I said, I promised you I'd flip back to this. During this stage, you might want to refer back to this, your roles and your goals. So when you're saying, what do you want to create your results? Is at this stage, you might want to go, right, what roles have I got? And what goals do I want to achieve? And then break those down. Okay. Then, so that is our step 2. We've done all that. We've got everything we want to achieve. And now you're going to fill it in your calendar. You're going to take all that time that you've said and you've allotted at a time, and now you're going to put it in your calendar. And this is a really important bit because we don't want a list. We want to throw the list away, because the list, we keep looking at it and, oh, we get feeling overwhelmed. Once in this calendar, this is done. And if you think there's going to be interruptions, allow for those interruptions. You know, we don't want this to be a bind to us. There may be things we have to be flexible, but actually, I like to think I've got quite good at this now, and I stick very rigidly to it, and it gives me so much more freedom. Okay. Because we think the calendar doesn't give us freedom. But when we made our decisions ahead of time, when we've got downtime, that free time that we factored in first, we're not thinking about everything else we have to do, because we know if we stick to the calendar, it is done. So that is it. You go through and you fill it in your calendar, whether it be Google Calendar, Outlook, whatever you use, your paper calendar, just fill it in. And then what we do is the next stage is you obey the calendar. So as your week comes, all you got to do is stick to that calendar. Now, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Most people, when they first do this, they go, oh, it just didn't work. Something crops up, and that scheduling obviously doesn't work for me. You go, well, how about if you look and see what went wrong and then amend it and see maybe there was something you didn't account for, and you could then make adjustments. And they're like, oh yeah, and actually they keep with it, and they will see the benefits. But often our brain won't want to, so actually it just chucks it all out as soon as there's a problem. But this is what I say to people is try it for a month, maybe 2 months, and just look at what went well, what didn't go well, and what you could do different next time, and just make those adjustments and then make it work for you. But obeying that calendar is really key, because you know you can get those things done. And when you planned it ahead of time, you'd already done your priorities, and you know those things are a priority for you in the week. If in the moment you go, don't want to do that, it's perfectly natural, because that's the other part of your brain coming in, that primitive part that just doesn't want to do the work. It's looking to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So it wants the easy route out. It prefers to scroll on this than it would the work you've done, maybe the washing, whatever it is. But we're just not going to listen to that voice. So you're just going to obey the calendar, and you're going to deal with the desire to procrastinate. Now, we'll talk about more of that in detail in later videos. But basically, you've made your plan, you're going to stick to your plan, and you're going to allow the discomfort and just make a start. And that's the tip I'd share with you on this one, on this video, is just make a start. So when you come to it and you go, oh, I don't want to do it, just acknowledge that voice, but don't obey it. That's the only problem when you obey it, and just make a start. And you'll find that once you make a start, you'll be in the flow and the work will be done, and then you'll see the benefits of it once it's completed. Okay, that's really important. So that is, I think, if I remember right, that is the 4 steps. Okay, so you're going to schedule, you eat, sleep, and rest. I can't remember what they are now. You're going to schedule your eat, sleep, and rest. You're going to break down, all your results that you want to do. You can just be a list, or it can be through your roles and goals. And then you're going to stick it in the calendar. And then you're going to obey the calendar. Just give it a go. And then if you struggle with it, bring it to your coaching sessions, and we'll go through it. But this will give you so much freedom in your life, and it will get rid of all that overwhelm. That's it, and I will see you in the next one.